Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? I'm gonna just take a little bit here to make sure that we get some people in here. Given the fact that this is kind of unannounced, I can see that no one is here right now, so we will get moving soon. Oh, hey, three people are here. Gonna wait to four. Oh, hey, that's one more than three. I know that because I went to this thing called school. It was okay. I learned a couple things, but not too much I really needed to know. That's how the education system works. And now we're down to three again. All right, so if I'm gonna wait just one more moment here to see if anyone else gets on in, and after that we can start the festivities, I suppose. Oh, now we're down to two. Okay, this is a good sign. Perhaps that would be a good idea, Leaf Razor, but the stream won't be all too long, so don't worry, you're not going to be missing all too much. And this is a spoiler-free stream. None of that is going to be popping up here, so don't worry. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns in the story, but none of it's going to be burst for you here. It's all going to be perfectly fine. So just about 30 more seconds. All right, let's get this started. Even though there's only two here, I'm sure more are going to be coming along. So, Foul Manor, for those of you who do not know, is a brand new series that I've got on the brand new channel, which I call the Lidkey Library, mostly because that is my last name. For those of you who are unaware, how dare you not be informed? Everyone must know everything about me. That's the law. So, basically, this is just kind of to celebrate the first episode coming out because, it did for the very first time. It came out today after quite a while of working on it. Basically, you guys can ask questions, talk about the characters, whatever you want to do. I'm all open. Basically, as long as it doesn't spoil the story, go right ahead. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about basically what this is, because I don't know if any of you guys remember, but I promoted this way back when. Oh, hey, we got a favorite character. Ooh, that's really tough, especially because I want to say who, but it's kind of spoilery, because the reason I really like this character is a very spoiler-heavy reason. So I kind of can't. But I will say that thus far in the story, I'm really enjoying writing for Duchovny. He's a lot of fun. And also, Jeremy is the most fun for me to write right now because I'll get into that when I'm talking about the creation of it all. But basically, yeah, Duchovny is my favorite one thus far, but Jeremy is my favorite one to write. Although that's going to change as the story goes on because I've got plans for others, and then my favorites are going to change. But basically, here is how this whole thing came to be. Because I advertised it last year and then nothing came of it. So it was originally just something that kind of popped into my head. I was thinking just kind of random story ideas as I do a lot of the time. I just think of things I could write because I do that a lot. I write a ton in my free time. That's what the Lidkey Library is for writing things that you guys don't get to see or reading them at least because trust me, I've got a whole library full of stuff that you have not seen. And I hope you guys like it because you guys are going to see it anyways. May as well like it. If not, how dare you? So it started off very differently, actually. There was 10 characters rather than the 8. And they were not all the same either, because it was actually kind of like Hunger Games meets Survivor a little bit. Because the thing is, they were all stuck on an island, and the whole point of the game was they had to survive. But the thing is, they came on the show not knowing that, hey, we're going to get killed on this thing. And one by one, they'd all die. But what happened was the first time they voted someone off, they thought, oh, it's just voting someone off. But no, they ended up getting killed. So then the whole thing was, oh no, these guys, when we vote them off, they die. And what are we going to do? And then there's this kind of moral dilemma going on. And if you don't vote, you die too. So there's kind of also a Lord of the Flies thing going on. But I felt, I don't know, it was a little Hunger Games-ish for my taste. And I just wasn't really feeling it. That's part of the reason why it didn't come out for so long, is because I really wasn't jazzed about the premise. I was thinking, I like dark, but this is like not my thing. And for those who are wondering, the characters were largely the same with the following exceptions. There were two more characters. One was named Daisy, who was a goth. Yes, that was basically the only thing, is that her name was Daisy. She was goth. There was also a character from Louisiana, which is partially why Fallon Manor is in Louisiana right now. There are two other reasons. One of them is a spoiler, and the other is a little sidetrack thing here. There are states I call the Big Three, where every story takes place: California, Illinois, specifically in the Chicago area, and New York. So I have promised that because those stories always have everything take place them, none of mine are going to take place there. I mean, it's not anything against the states. They're fine states with fine people. It's just all the stories everywhere in America take place there. Like, give the others a chance, like Vermont or Louisiana, Alabama. Come on. And yes, all three of those are things that have been the focus of my stories. For those who don't know, that's Standard Misadventures, Foul Manor, and The Rich Family. So that guy was Hank, and he's basically what Yevgeny is now. Because Yevgeny wasn't Yevgeny. He was actually Russell at first. Still from Michigan, but he was basically a stoner, kind of lazy, kind of doofy, and he was the first one who went home. But then I decided to kind of merge the characters into one, give him Russell's stylish fashion nature, I guess, while also give him Hank's stern aggressiveness. And Amanda, very briefly, was like this kind of Dipper Pines-esque paranoid. She was based off Professor Trelawney from Harry Potter, but then I decided to turn her into the alt-left, I'm better than you elitist, because I felt that was just kind of a better character. But by the time I sent her off to character design, I hadn't really set that down yet. Oh, actually, there was one more change. Grace was kind of the same, but her name was different. But in addition to seeking adventure, she was also basically a harlot. So there's that, but then I decided, okay, this is like, you can't get a sympathetic character out of the way she's been written here. So this is a no-go. So I kind of put it on the back burner for a little while, trying to make sure I got a premise that I actually liked and I thought I could do things with. But nothing came to me for a little while until I really started thinking about it. Funny enough, it was after the Drawn Together Season 3 review when I was starting to think about that again and like, maybe this could work, kind of make it more about the characters rather. Actually, no, that's when I decided to actually do something about it. The Drawn Together Season 3 review is when I decided, hey, I'm not going to sit on this anymore, I'm actually going to do something with it. The VeggieTales Abridged finale is when I decided to rework it, because I really like writing characters. That's my thing. More than stories, and especially more than jokes, as I found out, is I like writing characters. Bouncing off each other, growing, that kind of stuff. So after that, I decided to really focus on something that would make characters blossom, which turned out to be Standard. But I also kind of worked on Foul Manor in the background. And then around Drawn Together Season 3 review, I decided, yeah, it's time. Let's get going. So I tinkered a little bit in the background for a little while, and now here we are. This was actually right when it was the old premise. This was going to be the first book I wrote, but I decided to start off with something simpler, so I went with The Rich Family. And yes, you'll be getting some of that on the Lidkey library too. Just looking for an audiobook narrator. I can't do it all, folks. So that's basically the long-winded spiel about how that all came to be. Now, what do you guys have to say? Because I know the chat's been a little stone-faced right now because I've been kind of rambling on about my story. But hey, it's kind of an important story to know. Let's see, what do we got here? The best protagonists do tend to be polar opposites in worldview. Exactly what I believe. That's why I've paired people like, well, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but the roommates are the total opposites of each other because each contestant shares a room with one other. So Ethan and Evgeny, Lance and Jeremy, Patsy and Olivia, and Amanda and Grace. Like Amanda is really uppity and opinionated. Grace is go with the flow, adventure kind. Patsy is extroverted and out there and ambitious. Olivia has ambition, but is really shy and can't bring it out. Evgeny is cold, kind of mean, very blunt. Ethan is just the happiest guy in the world. Jeremy is grungy, not too smart, salt of the earth kind of guy, while Lance is very arrogant, boastful, and extremely intellectual. So I decided to pair them all together because I felt that'd bring out a lot of good character dynamic. Plus, if I get into the story about how each of the characters were created, it'll kind of make sense given Jeremy and Lance being paired together. I think I missed one here. Where did the idea for Found Manor of the show come from? I actually just described that. It was basically the whole story I was going through it there, but so go rewind it. I guess it'd take too long to do it again. But I decided to kind of put it in the house. I don't think I mentioned that. I don't think I finished that part. I decided to put it in the house so that everyone was kind of in close quarters with each other, so that they'd have no choice but to interact. And with the interaction would come growth, and with growth would come story stimulation, thereby making it a lot more interesting for those who are reading along, or in this case, listening along. Because remember, this was just going to be a book at the time, not an audiobook series. But now here we are. And by the way, this weekend, the second chapter will be coming out, and this is so the first one's going to be a little slow because it's a pilot. We're getting to introduce to the show, the characters, that sort of stuff. Starting with the second episode is where things are really going to start kicking up. All right, what else do you guys got? And remember, no spoilers here. I can't give in any spoilers. The only reason I gave the room things is because that's coming in the next chapter anyways, and that's not really a spoiler. My favorite character design, I got two. One of them is Jeremy because he looks so much like the guy he was based off of, and he kind of gives me Nut Shack vibes. Like, I hate the Nut Shack. I really hate it. But on the other hand, I do think that that is kind of a funny little touch. I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'll have to ask Isabella. But I think that's kind of funny. And I also really like Evgeny, just because he's kind of this Dolph Lundgren, massive, burly type. For going with my favorite female design, I'd probably say Patsy. But I liked all of them very much so. The reason there's no Duchovny, by the way, is because he's not going to be in every episode. So he's not, I guess technically he's part of the main cast, technically not. It's kind of hard to determine. It's like, for example, Chuckles and Dave the Barbarian. Would you consider him part of the main cast because he appears in half the episodes? Or let's go something more mainstream here. Like Simpsons, for instance. Would you consider Ned Flanders part of the main cast, even though he appears in not every episode? Kind of stuff like that. That's why there's no Duchovny design. Plus, I kind of want him to be left up to the imagination, unless there was ever some kind of adaptation of this where it's like animation or whatever. I don't know. But the point is, I kind of want to leave him up to the imagination, and he's not really part of the main cast. How about you guys, though? Who are your favorite character designs? I want to hear about that. Because it seems like out of the characters themselves, not the designs, Olivia seems to be the fan favorite so far. But now I'm just kind of wondering about the designs. What do you guys think? Any preferences from you? Patsy, yeah. Patsy's definitely one of my more favorite designs too, like I said. Oh, I missed one. Do you have a schedule for releasing this work? Not at the moment. I'm thinking it's going to be weekly, like Media Mementos, but I'm just kind of trying to get the first episode done. Not because it's bad, but because, it's a pilot. It's just there to introduce. I kind of want to get to the story stuff, the stories, the actual stories where we focus on the characters and their development and all that. You can't really do that so much with a pilot. And I feel like it's kind of cheating you to have the first month of the show's life just be the pilot. That doesn't really seem fair to me. And I don't think it'd be too fair to you guys either. Trust me, I'd love to release like a chapter a day or something, but there's no way I could get that done. That's impossible. All right, you guys got anything else? I guess in the meantime, while you guys are thinking of stuff to say, I'll get into how I created some of the characters or how I came up with them. Jeremy was based off of I wouldn't say roommate, but suite mate. Uh, you know, in college you have a roommate, then across the hall there's suite mates, and you guys are in one dorm together. So he's based off of actually both he and Liam are based off of suite mates of mine. One of them was extremely intellectual and would ask us questions just to kind of get a reaction out of us and see if he could fluster us or throw us off or something. He was a great guy. Jeremy, I barely had to exaggerate anything for Foul Manor. Like he is almost the same as I wrote him. Almost no exaggeration. Basically, exactly how I wrote him. And that is, it's weird. It's very weird. Amanda's based off of one of my friends from theater. Way back in the Willy Wonka, Drowsy Chaperone, Footloose days. She's very nice, but when you get her off, she gets going. And I didn't mean get her off as in like that kind of way, but like when you get her going about politics or something she's really passionate about, like some kind of cause, man, she can go. Like if you guys think I can talk about that stuff, yeah, no, that's nothing. Like I talk about facts and all that, but she definitely is a opinions are facts kind of person. Again, great friend of mine, absolute great friend, wouldn't trade her friendship for the world. But that's just kind of how she is. That's how a lot of people actually are up there. Patsy is based off of someone I knew back in school who. So Patsy is probably the loosest. Oh, actually, yes, they do know about the show. Most of them do. And with the exception of Jeremy and Lance, like they're very loosely based off of them. So I shouldn't really say based off of, I should more say inspired by. But like Patsy's definitely the loosest one because way back in the day, there was this one girl that was like obsessed with finding that one special guy. Only unlike Patsy, who's basically, I'm not going to give anyone a chance until I'm absolutely sure that they're that one person because, she's really naive and stuff. That one girl would have a crush on basically everybody because who knows, they could be that person. Only one way to find out, and that's to like obsess over them for a week. So that always kind of stuck with me. I'm like, I wonder what would happen if instead of late elementary school, that happened in, say, after high school. But then when I was toying around with it, I'm like, if someone who's this focused about it this far in life, they're not going to be like trying to give everyone a chance. They're only going to give that one person a chance. And what if, keeping true to the fact that this was based off someone so young, what if I really upped the naivete here and made it so I'll know him immediately when I see him kind of thing? Olivia is based off of actually a few people. She's inspired by like an amalgamation of a lot of my friends who have just great, great potential, but just can't seem to show it off because they're the shyest people around. I'm not going to name names or any of that because I'm sure some of them watch here too. But just know if you guys are out here and you know it, then hey, you inspired Olivia. Let's see, who else have I got? Oh, Yevgeny's actually, again, none of with the exception of two, they're not really based off of anyone, but Yevgeny was heavily inspired by a Russian neighbor we used to have. He lived next door. He was kind of stoic at first, but when you get to know him, he's a really nice guy. And he actually grew up in the Soviet Union, and he used to tell us about what it was like. He said everyone had a car, but it wasn't a great car. Everyone had food, but it wasn't good food. And when someone asked you, hey, how are you doing today? You can't say, oh, I'm doing well. You have to say, I'm okay, or I'm doing fine, or I'm in the middle. Because if you said you're doing well, the people would say, well, what does this guy have that I don't have? And they'd get all jealous and angry, and they'd attack. See, that's what communism does, folks. Just want to throw that out there. Granted, the Yevgeny in the show doesn't really share his personality at all. Just kind of my first impressions of him when I first met him when I was it 9, 8, something in there? Ethan is, again, another amalgamation of some of the Mormon members of my family, because I mentioned this once before, but I'm a descendant of Brigham Young. So my grandma on my mom's side has a lot of Mormons in her family. And so kind of they're based off of them. And like a lot of the Mormon stereotypes are actually kind of true. They are overly nice, overly sweet and happy and all that. There's nothing against them. They're fine people. That's just, how they are. So writing Ethan is basically just kind of writing how a lot of Mormons are. Of course, I can't just make him Mormon and then that's his character, because that's not a character, that's a character trait. We don't want to be like Drawn Together season 3, right? Where it's just stereotype equals character. No, we don't do that. We do not do that. Grace is an amalgamation of, again, another one of my friends who's always out for like kind of doing cool stuff and adventure, like always has to be on the move. And also a little bit of myself in there. Being just kind of wanting to try new things and being perhaps a little overeager to do so at some points. Granted, I'm more restrained than Grace is, or the friend in question that I talked about, but I put a little myself in there. And Duchovny, well, that's kind of getting into spoilers of talking about where he came from. So let's not dwell on where he came from. So from the title, these characters are living in a manor. Does that manor have an owner? Technically speaking, Duchovny owns it. It used to belong to the community, but he and his friend bought it up for the show. So he technically does own it, and they flipped it and they reverted it. So now it's basically like a modern day mansion, even if it is something that is in the South. Oh, another question popped up. Which character do you relate to the most? Oh, I want to say so badly, but I can't. I can't because it's a spoiler, and it's a very big spoiler, like one of the biggest. I know what it is, and one or two other people that I've ran the story by know what it is. Other than that, no one knows, and I'm going to keep it that way until the story comes out. So I'd love to answer that question because I have a lot to talk about with that. But I can't because I promised I wouldn't ruin the story, especially because we're only one chapter into the pilot. But yeah, that is a good question, though. I'd love to answer that. I can't. I can tell you which one I relate to the least, though. That's Amanda. It's kind of hard to write someone I disagree with so much as like not a strongman character. Mike Judge, I don't know if you know who he is, but he created King of the Hill. He also created a show called The Good Family, where it's basically the reverse of King of the Hill, where King of the Hill is a bunch of conservatives, The Good Family is a bunch of liberals. But because he disagrees with them so much, he was only able to write them as caricatures and strawmen rather than actual characters that we could develop with and care about. Yeah, and I don't want that. I really don't, because all of these characters should be people you care about by the end. Like some of them, for example, Jeremy may start off rough and bad, and a bit immoral, but by the end of it, I want everyone to be likable. I want everyone to have a fan group, so to speak. Everyone's got to be likable by the end of this, except the villain, of course. And also, if you guys are not aware, we have a Discord server uh, for the Lidkey library in which I will take notes about which characters are more popular. So I can tell you guys right now that the more popular ones will tend to get more, not screen time, but more presence. Everyone's going to have about the same amount of starring roles, but when it comes to the episodes where it's all the group together, all in one big team, the people that are more popular are going to tend to get more to do, so to speak, you know. So be sure to be vocal about which ones you like, because otherwise you might get stuck with one that you're not as crazy about. And it's a little hard for me because I really like all the characters. I kind of have to. I'm the one that created them. I brought them into this world and I can take them out of it. So I'm a little blind when it comes to that. You guys are definitely a lot less blind because you don't have that creator bias, which is very helpful to hear from. All right, do you guys have anything else to say? Or anything you want to know? So like I said, without spoilers, it's all on the table. Anything? Anything at all? I will say also, I don't know what it is, but recording the audiobook is a lot easier than something like Live and Reloaded was. Live and Reloaded was still easy to record with the exception of, you know, the occasional bumbling in the lines and all that. And I'm still doing voices here, but maybe it's because I'm not doing as in-depth of voices, because the most in-depth one was Jeremy, you know, it sounded like this and all that. Or actually more kind of like this. Or I guess Lance also a little like that. But aside from that, you can still tell it's me because I'm not really trying to mask my voice. I'm just trying to put on a little bit of a distinction so you know who's talking. That's kind of really the crux of it, I think. And also, it's a book format, so there's no script reading. I don't have to stop all the action to read what they're doing. I can just go, which is actually something I've kind of come to appreciate. You know, I don't have to stop everything just to make sure you guys know what's going on or who's moving or doing what, which means that when we get to the stuff that I've written that are in script formats, I'm going to need to come up with something because I've kind of grown accustomed to not having to read. Gary Platter walks to the left and picks up the stone while Quinzel raises his wand or something like that. I've become accustomed to not having to do that anymore. You know, every so often I kind of think back to Live and Reloaded and say, I kind of miss it. Its time was up, you know, like we had to stop VeggieTales content because it's just not what we're striving for now. But we had a lot of stories to tell, you know. I came across this one file on my old laptop where we had a list of all the ones we were going to do for the big revival. Because on my old laptop, that's the one I mostly use for video stuff. And then my new one's the one that I mostly use for work and college, just so you're wondering. So we had all the ones written out for the big revival we had going, like Neverending Story was going to be one of them. We were going to have Third Mo and the Big Exit, or rather Little Joe, because that one came out first. Avenue Q, Little Shop of Horrors. Hudson Taylor was going to have an adaptation kind of similar to the George Mueller bit. There's going to be a sequel to Diamond Pearl. Yeah, there was a lot going there. I know this doesn't have to do with Foul Manor, but it's just kind of something I wanted to throw out. I don't miss VeggieTales Abridged though. I mean, but now that the whole thing has died, I can look back on it and be proud of what I've done. I'm just glad I moved on. It's like simple as that. I am happy with the episodes. Although I will say, looking back on some of them, particularly the early ones, but also some of the middle, there are some things I would have done differently. And there were things I would change, mostly in the jokes department. I was rewatching some of them a little bit ago, and I was just kind of thinking maybe one more draft had I done it today. Although I'm still endlessly proud of the last two episodes. Those I stand by no matter what. And because it seems like there's not really much else to discuss here, I'll be leaving you guys with that. When there's more episodes that come out, I'm going to be doing another one of these so we actually have more things to discuss. But I mostly just kind of wanted to do this to celebrate not only this coming out, but it is kind of the beginning of a new era, so to speak. The era of the Lid Key Library. And I hope you guys are going to be there to be there on the journey with me. Thanks for joining, guys. I'll see you later.